Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 721. Today we're going to take a look at Age of Sigmar. Now you can see here is the new Dominion box set starter set for 3rd edition. And I'm going to review two things really, the box set itself and also a little bit of 3rd edition. Now it's a little bit tricky to review all the parts of all the pieces for basically a game of this size in general, but also at the launch of a new edition, because right now, as I'm recording this video, the General's Handbook, which is kind of like your little codex or guide for match play, for tournament play, for competitive play, isn't yet out. And I probably won't pick up mine here for a couple of days after this recording. And that kind of takes time anyway to sort of let some tournaments happen, get some games in to kind of see how kind of the meta shakes out and kind of the overall ecosystem of the game and see how that kind of jives around. I will say I've liked what I've seen from the match play in this box set, although it's very, very limited. So this review is going to be kind of, I think, a little bit disjointed and rambly. I'll put links to some of my Age of Sigmar battle reports and other reviews I've done over the last couple editions and everything like that. I will be doing some other battle reports on this channel for 3rd edition, probably match play stuff, but I'll talk more about that kind of at the back end of this to kind of just ask you guys some questions and see what you might want to see, because I want to try to do something maybe a little bit different than what you normally see. A lot of battle report channels do just kind of straight up 2,000 point match play battles and kind of throw different forces at each other, which sounds cool to me if I wanted to do a couple of those, and if that's what people really, really want. But I'm also going to talk a little bit about the Path to Glory stuff that's in this box, which is actually, I would say, a lot more emphasized within the confines of the core rule set as well as this box versus match play, which is kind of coming soon, coming next, or coming immediately right after this. And I'm also going to kind of present this in a way, and I'll kind of spoil it here, of how this is a good kind of starter set, maybe for two people, a family situation or two buddies or whatever, to kind of go in together on this and play through some games just using the content here in this box alone, and then you don't have to move on to match play or growing your army necessarily right away outside of this box set. So I'll talk a little bit about that. That'll kind of be a running theme through the course of this review. So let's go down to the table, we'll take a look at the book, take a look at some of the new models and stuff like that, and I'll talk through some of the stuff that I played. I played 6 games of this, kind of a mix of Path to Glory and match play, and I'll talk about my experience there. And we'll kind of come back here, kind of a general, really rambly kind of final thoughts for something that just, is barely out. So a couple of things just kind of about the general content. So here you can see the main core rule book. Now this is the same exact book that you can buy separately by itself. The cover is a little bit different. There's no title and subtitle on this, just one large piece of art, but the contents of the book are the same. Now of course you also get a bunch of the models here, which we'll get a better close-up of. I've got everything all painted up. If you want some better pictures, you can go look on my Instagram or my Facebook page. Just scroll down maybe 1 or 2 posts from the time of this video. And actually, I'll put links to the post directly if you want to take a look at it, better photos of all the models painted up and see how a complete amateur paints them. A couple other notes here. You have the assembly guide. I will just say a note, these are push to fit, and I will say on some, very, very few actually, I did have to clip off the little pegs. You can see here, let's see an example here. So they're push to fit, so they'll have little pegs and holes. Some of them I clipped the pegs down a little bit. This is sometimes typical of these push to fit models for Games Workshop, to get them to sort of go together so there wasn't like a gap on a shoulder blade or something like that. So that's just something to keep in mind. When in doubt, clip the peg and then it will fit together much more snugly. And it also comes with this little narrative book. There's not really anything gameplay in here at all. It kind of gives you a background for the new Stormcast Eternal models, the new Auric models, the Cruel Boys, and just a little bit and nice sort of illustrations here, not illustrations, but pictures of them all painted up, kind of give you a guide if you like. And just a little bit of a backstory in terms of kind of the setting, at least for this box set, and how you might fight. But there's no scenarios or anything in here, or points or war scrolls, because this time they've included cards, which has all that fun stuff on there. So you can see here's war scrolls for all the cards, got all your stats, movement, bravery, special abilities, your little stat line with your weapon actions. And these also here have points. So you can point these out within the confines of just this box. You don't necessarily need the General's Handbook to point them out. And allegiance abilities and special abilities for the 2 different factions here. So these are all within the context of these cards. And there's a number of scenarios and stuff in here that you can play through with just what you've got in this box. So let's just kind of flip through the rule book really quickly, and just to kind of give you a sense of what's in here. Typical of Games Workshop, sort of core rule sets, there is a ton of art and lore and all that kind of stuff, and the rules themselves really take a secondary step in comparison to the amount of lore and background and everything. But I would say even more so in here. And really kind of reading through this and flipping through some of it and kind of refreshing my memory on sort of the history of Age of Sigmar now into this 3rd edition after the Broken Realms storyline and of course Soul Wars storyline and everything. This really feels now, at the launch of 3rd edition, that this is a fully realized world, where if you go all the way back to 1st edition, I still have my 1st edition rulebook here. If you go back to this one, it was very open-ended, very wide open. It was a brand new thing. There was no history and stories and special characters and all that kind of fun stuff that much. I mean, there was some of that, but it was very sparse. Okay, and it was very open-ended. So there was a new world and a universe that they could explore. But now everything seems to kind of have a place. All of the realms are fully explored, whereas back in the realm of light and shadow was just like a little line or a little paragraph, and now we've found out how the elves are doing, and that was something that was not really fleshed out at all back in the original edition. So this really feels like if you're looking for kind of a core grounded universe to kind of sink your teeth in, and there's tons of novels and stuff, but anyway, this stuff has been really fleshed out, and it's even more so this edition. And then of course, if we flip back here a little bit, see lore, all this stuff, different factions, all the way to the back here. See how much lore, look at this. Now we're into the rules here. Now I will say the rules, the core rules, are available for free that you could download and print out a PDF if you so wish. These are the exact same rules that are in here as terms of the core rules, exact same thing here. These will be included in the Journal's Handbook. So if you don't really care about the lore and everything, and you want kind of a cheap little rule book to get you started, you just go get the Journal's Handbook probably, or just print these out, and then away you go. So it's about 40 pages of rules, and they've taken some steps here to sort of change the format of the rules. A lot's been said about that. They've used kind of this dot notation. They've used sidebars for examples and stuff like that. So it's pretty well presented. I will say, as somebody that has been playing for a while now, I think this actually will be easier to read for a new player versus somebody that has been playing, because there's a lot of little changes just scattered all throughout the new edition. So some stuff that it's sort of been like a habit, you have to kind of unlearn and stuff like that. And in regards to all facets of the game, strategy, tactics, core rules, different things like that, how certain things work together. And then if we go a little bit further here, a little more core rules, and we have open play again, which I haven't really looked too much at because I don't really do that. Now, narrative play is the largest sort of swath of stuff. So we're going to skip that real quick here and just show that in the back here, you've got just a little bitty section on matched play in terms of the table sizes, the faction sizes, the point sizes, a couple of new concepts here, and then just 3 little battle plans, which I played through each of these. And then that's about it. And there's a couple of things here in the back with some of like the weird one-off games like Siege Warfare and Tunnel Warfare or Triumph and Treachery, kind of just strange thematic games that you can use. But the most space dedicated to this beyond the core rules is dedicated to narrative play and dedicated to this Path to Glory system here. So something that's very different with this edition as opposed to other editions is Path to Glory is really fully realized. And you can take a look here, so you can print these off the back of the rule book. I assume they'll make them for download at some point, but I've been playing through basically 6 Path to Glory games using the Orcs faction here and the Stormcast faction. So you got some different things that you track. You can track different territories that you own. You can upgrade your barracks to get glory points, and these will give you special abilities. And I started off at the sort of starting size here of 600, and it kind of grew the armies till I was using everything that was in the box. And then here you have the stats for your individual units and so on. And you can start to upgrade them with special abilities, and they start to take casualties or get their own kind of renown points, which is what unlocks these special abilities and so on. And so you have the same here with the Stormcast as well. And you keep track of that, and you have like limits to the type of units that you can bring, but if you get like the different territories and stuff, you get a keep or a wellspring, that will sort of unlock a lot of other things. So I've been playing through this, and it's really neat. I just wanted to take kind of a quick second here. So you set it up, you get your kind of set starting size, starting territory, all that fun stuff. And then you jump into picking your enhancements and things like that, like your artifacts and special spells and stuff that you might want. Now I have just been using the core stuff in here. So I haven't been using anything out of the battalions that existed, and they have new battalions coming out. So here you can see the different enhancements, artifacts, command traits, command abilities, lore. So both factions, when I played through, just used the universals here. So these are universal enhancements that are in the core rulebook that any army can take. And these are actually, some of these are really good and decent. So when all else fails, you can take something out of here. So that's what I was doing to build up my Path to Glory armies there. And then you have here the quests. And these on surface seemed kind of lame, actually. But they're kind of a cool thing. So what these quests do is, usually what it is you'll play a scenario, do the thing, and then based on what you kind of do or where your models sort of end up at the end of the scenario, you could get quest points, and these will unlock like extra spells, extra artifacts, give you extra glory points, all kinds of stuff. What they, in practice, ended up doing was giving you kind of something to do at the end of the game when maybe the outcome was kind of revealing itself. So you're like, okay, well, I'm going to win or I'm going to lose this scenario. So maybe I'll send this guy over here to kind of get a quest point, which will help me on my quest. Or it gives you actually kind of an interesting kind of tough decision of like, wait, I'd really like to get that extra quest point because I'm going to get a big bonus of glory points based on completing that. But I also want to try to win this game. And so there's a kind of a nice dichotomy there. So on surface, it's like, have two guys in your deployment territory. It's like, well, how's that a quest? But you kind of think about it over the course and sort of the arc of multiple games, it kind of makes sense how you can do it. So they're a little bit basic, a little bit kind of, you got to fill in the gaps a little bit, but I really actually enjoyed them. And what they're going to come out with is battle packs here that sort of enhance this. And I assume they're going to look like this one for 40K. These are called Crusades. And these will have, this is a mission pack. And they're going to have these battle packs here that have like a specific storyline that you can fight through, and probably updates to all of this sort of core Path to Glory functionality. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's kind of one of the things I thought maybe that would be a fun kind of series of battle reports, but I'm not super sure if people would be interested in watching like a story unfold, on a YouTube channel or not. Maybe not. I'm not sure I would, but it would be fun to play. I know that for sure. So this is kind of like how you might set up your battle and so on. Yada, yada, yada. And then you have an aftermath sequence. So here you can see, depending on the kind of the size of the match, this is the number of points, so 500 to 750 points. If you fought, you get 5 glory points. If you won a major victory, you get 3, minor victory 2. If your warlord was alive at the end, you get an extra 1. So everybody's going to get a little bit of glory points there. You do some injury rolls, and these are for your heroes, your single models. And a unique named character, so like the Andrasta character from the Stormcast, they won't take any injury rolls because they're, prime named character. They're not going to die. But your character may die, and your general may die. And your general cannot be actually a unique character. So actually, when I started off playing, I didn't play with the Andrasta, which is good because Andrasta is easily like the most powerful model in the box, no question, and feels like, to me, a steal for 300 points. And then just a quick mention here, you will take casualty rolls. So basically every model in a unit, let's say the unit of 10, and you lost 6 of them, you roll 6 dice. Any ones, you'll mark that down as a casualty. So next time you field them, for every casualty, you have to sort of reduce your unit by size equal to the casualty. So if you had a unit with 1 casualty, it was normally a size 10, you'd only be able to field 9 models. And then units will get renown and stuff, and this is how you get special abilities based on who won the scenario. Maybe certain things driven by the scenario will give you extra renown. And then you can spend your glory points to upgrade your strongholds, add barracks, which will give you extra unit slots to add. You can go explore and get different territories. These will cost you glory points to first of all sort of capture and maintain, and also you can actually pay glory to upgrade them. And then here you can roll recuperation. So you can do this immediately after possibly a unit loses some models, but you could try to spend glory to recuperate them. But you spend the glory and then roll the die on a 4+ or 2+, kind of depending on what you're doing. Then that casualty point will go back down. But you get to spend the glory. So you have to be, there's an interesting kind of balancing out between spending glory to add new units, to maintain territories, to help recuperate units, and so on. And then if we flip here a little bit, we have a little bit of kind of the core battle pack, and there is 6 battle plans here. I played through 3 of these, and then the 3 match play scenarios I played as a part of the Path to Glory. So there was no bonus renown or anything for them, but you know, we just played like a match play game and then sort of shifted the rules to be the match play rules. So out of the box, to play strictly legal match play with this, you've only got 1 battle line unit per side. And so you can only really play a 750 point match play unit. You can't really play 1,000 point, although there's more than 1,000 points of figures per side. But I tried to play very strict, so we played a couple of 750 point matches, just so the battle line rule was real and it was a legit thing. I could have played a 1,000 point match, but I said, nah, whatever, it's fine. Now here we have a handy dandy reference sheet. Now you can find this on the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Facebook group, and this is floating around in the file section. This is a double-sided cheat sheet here, and this is invaluable for new players as well as existing players. So the way that command points has changed is outlined here. They've got the new heroic actions, heroic abilities. You have the new monster phase stuff. You have here all of the different command abilities that any army can do outlined here and sort of broken down by phases. And then as well, here on the back, you have what's called here the grand strategy and the battle tactics. These will come into play in match play. And then some other different things here, the battalion, sort of how you organize these things. The mysterious terrain, which I did make use of with these cool dice here in the narrative scenario. So when I played through a match play, I sort of ignored those. And then the narrative scenarios specifically tell you to roll this up for 2 terrain pieces and do that. And so this is a super handy player aid. And I definitely recommend folks have this, because as you kind of walk through your phases, you get my command points, whose turn is it, is a journal on the board, okay, hero phase, because you operate in both hero phases, so that's kind of a new thing. So if it's the other player's turn, you can still take a heroic action on yourself. And so each player gets to do that, and then you got the command ability, okay, do I want to do that? And you kind of walk yourself down here in the different phases so you can say, oh, I've got all these different little special abilities and stuff that I could do, and there you go. And then the grand strategy and battle tactics I'll kind of talk about in the review part, but this is very handy to have this as well. And from my understanding, the General's Handbook and match play stuff is going to have more of strategies and tactics and command abilities that you can use. So we might see another cheat sheet come out that kind of incorporates all of that. And who knows, when they have the battle pack for the Path to Glory, there'll probably be some other things that you can use, and you'll have your own stuff for your army books as they come out. Probably special heroic actions that only the Stormcast can do. We'll see. I will say one interesting kind of note here. I went back to this first edition rulebook there. All of the the battle plans in this are in the narrative section of this new edition rulebook. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So I could see you wanting to play a Path to Glory style game through kind of the opening act of the Age of Sigmar universe, maybe with a Stormcast and Khorne warband or army. And you could use the rules here for taking territory and glory points and all that stuff and play through these, maybe even using the Time of War special abilities, and actually sort of link these together, because as these were originally presented, they were just like, hey, here's something that kind of happened. You can throw whatever armies you want. And just kind of one-off scenarios. You might have like a triumph carryover from scenario to scenario. But if you wanted to kind of replay some of these old narrative books using the Path to Glory system, I was flipping through some of the other narrative books that I have, and I was like, well, that could be a really fun kind of campaign to sort of wrap this new Path to Glory system into some of the old stories and have that whole, like, you know, gathering of territory and growing your warband in a more fleshed out and better, more fundamental way than kind of the old Path to Glory stuff. So let's just do a kind of a quick scan of the models and stuff like that. Like I said, I'll put links to them on Instagram, and you get a better shot of them doing that. So these are just kind of left over from stuff that either didn't fight in the last match I played or died. So you see you got Andrasta in there, and you've got the different orcs and those guys, and some of the different Stormcasts and banner guys, and these Hobgrots here, which are kind of worthless. They're not very good, but I really like the models. And then some other of these Stormcast guys down there. These are the Paladins there, and then the Vindictors, and then this guy. And then here's probably my favorite model in the whole set. The light's a little bright on that angle there, but that guy there, that little banner guy, I really like him. And I also like the kind of the warlord, war boss guy there on his mount. So let's jump back to my talking head there. We'll do a little bit of a review talk. Okay, so that was a very kind of circumspect overview of everything that comes in the Dominion box. Now, if you watch this channel enough, you'll know I have kind of 3 pillars of review, but they don't apply necessarily in this case. So I'm going to have 3 different pillars of review. First, I'm going to talk about the box itself, the content, the kind of the product of it. The second thing I'm going to talk about is all the kind of the mechanical changes. And then the last kind of pillar, I'm going to talk about basically Path to Glory and kind of the narrative, thematic kind of, touchy-feely stuff. So first off, the box itself, I think is excellent. You get just over 1,000 points of the new Oryx, and you get about, I think, 1,200 or 1,300 points of the new Stormcast. And I'm immediately integrating these into my existing Ironjaws / Orc army and my existing Stormcast army. I'm very excited to include these. And I think the models are excellent. I did make a caveat about sort of sometimes having to clip the pegs when you assemble the models, but I think that's kind of par for the course here. I really enjoyed painting these models. I mean, every single one of them. I really got creative with some of them. Again, there'll be links to the Instagram posts and everything on there. But I really had a good time painting these up, and I'm pleased with all the sculpts and all that. So the product, sort of physical product side of it is excellent. The rule book is cool. Like I said, there's just tons and tons of lore. It feels like a much more grounded universe than it ever has been, and it's just overall great. So that's the product itself. Now, let's talk mechanics here for a minute. I'm going to kind of work through this player aid that I showed you during the kind of walkthrough. And I was going to kind of walk through it and then just talk about those different elements. So the first thing is how command points work. Command points now, you don't start the battle with any. I mean, you don't bring any with your army, but you do get some every round, including the very start of the game. And then they disappear. By the end of that battle round, they're gone, and then you regenerate them. So if you go first on a turn, you get 1 command point. If you go second in the round, you get 2. If your general's on the field, at the beginning of each turn, so your turn and then my turn, we get a command point. So you get another command point kind of halfway through the round. And then you can take a heroic action to roll a die. If you get a 4+, you get an extra command point. And there's other special abilities and things that may generate you command points in some of the different army special abilities and so on. And so you get those command points, and then you are going to have ample opportunity to spend them. And you will kind of see actually over the arc of a round, so first turn, opposing player, second turn, you get a couple of command points there in between, but by the end of that round, you're going to be kind of really hurting for command points in some cases, because you have a lot of opportunity to use them, because again, you can use them when it's your opponent's turn. So there's one that's kind of an Overwatch thing, which is, I think, called Unleash Hell. And so if you charge at me and then you're within 9 inches of one of my units, then I can spend that command point and basically shoot at them. It's kind of like an Overwatch thing. And it's with a -1 to hit and so on. But so there's an opportunity to use that there. Okay, great. But then I might want to also do a redeploy where I can kind of move somebody away, or I might want to keep that command point for kind of a defensive bonus or an offensive bonus. And so you have a lot of these different special abilities that you can do. You can just rally to kind of roll and kind of regenerate some troops and so on, or take the Battle Shock Immunity command ability. But one really key thing about this is each phase, so movement phase, heroic phase, combat phase, a command ability can only be given by a unit once. So if your general's out there and they give a command ability to somebody during the combat phase, that's the only one they can bestow during the entire phase. And the unit that receives the command ability, that's the only one they can get. So that is really, I think, my favorite part of this, because you have a tough choice. Because if you have multiple kind of skirmishes and combats out there on the field at the current time, you're like, okay, who do I want to get the +1 to hit? Because I really want them to be successful on offense. Okay, well, maybe this unit over here. But I'd also like to give them, to make sure that they're still around, to get that +1, I want to give them the all-out defense, which gives them the +1 on the save. So that's a really tough choice. Now, it's also a cool note that not just heroes and generals are the ones kind of bestowing the command abilities. If you have a unit that has a leader, like a sergeant, inside that unit, that sergeant can always give its own unit a command ability. So it will eat up the delivery and the receipt of the command ability for that unit for the phase. And that makes it really cool. So it makes you really feel like you're kind of being sort of a very tactical kind of general, kind of juggling all of these little resources across the whole battlefield. It's really, really neat, and I can't stress that enough. I really like what they've done here with the command points. And of course, I think that'll evolve and get more fleshed out, you know, as more new battle tomes come out and kind of refresh all the armies to, you know, keep that kind of stuff in mind. The other thing is neat, I don't want to move away from this, is the heroic actions. So this happens in each player's turn, and both players can do it. So at the start of the game, you're 99 times out of 100 going to roll for the extra command point. And that could be really, really vital as you get later on in the game. But you might stop doing that as some of your heroes start to take damage. You can actually roll to like recover them. And I've seen a couple of games, especially where the Auric leader was able to just stay alive, just regenerating just those couple extra hit points, which just kept them around that much longer. And that was really a vital thing that they had to do to stay around, but you're foregoing kind of that extra command point, at least a chance of it. And there's a couple of things, so you can actually pick a hero to sort of get +1 to their attack and defense, so they can really try to charge up and be awesome and be very heroic. But you only get to do one of those things, you know? And so you have to really kind of, again, have this sort of picky, choosy kind of choice that's going on, and it makes it a real tough choice a lot of times. And I really like that. Anything where you're kind of breaking things down and sort of slicing and dicing the game in such a way that you're sort of compartmentalizing and sort of doing probabilities in your head, or, you know, trying to guess at certain things and outcomes, and saying, I think this is the best choice. It's kind of funny because as I played through these 6 games, I felt like every single choice, you look at it and be like, oh, that was good. And then like 5 minutes later, be like, no, that was dumb. You should have did the other thing or did this instead. And any game that where you're sort of playing through it and you're like, oh, well, I could have done it differently. It keeps you thinking about it, keeps you thinking back to those decisions. That's really a good sign to me. And so the juggling, again, of all this different kind of stuff is really cool. So the whole heroic structure, command structure thing is good. I didn't get to play with any of the monsters rampage stuff because I was just forcing myself to play with stuff in the box and there's no monsters in here. But I'm really excited for that stuff. So based on what we've seen from the new General's Handbook coming out and this new monsters abilities, you're probably going to be want to be running either anti-monster stuff like the Andrasta character. She's got some abilities that are more effective against monsters. You're going to want to be running some of that, or monsters yourself, because they're going to get a lot of bonuses and they're going to feel better than they did, I think, in previous editions. I mean, I haven't tested it out, but the word on the street is that they feel more monstrous, they feel more giant and just you know, titanic, and how they really should feel. If you see this, you know, giant mega gargant stomping through the field, it shouldn't just drop and be ineffective, right? So I'm excited for that kind of thing. Now, a couple other things here. There's 2 kind of match play things I want to talk about mechanically, and then we'll jump into the Path to Glory narrative stuff. Now in match play, there's 2 really cool concepts, and one of them is called Grand Strategy and the other is called Battle Tactics. So when you build your army, either before a match or before a tournament, you have to set out a grand strategy. And these, I know, have been updated in the General's Handbook. So before you even get to the tournament day, you've got to outline that and say, I'm going to choose Sever the Head, which means that at the end of a game, if you kill all of your opponent's heroes, you get an extra 3 victory points in that match. And that's going to apply to all the matches that you play for that tournament. Obviously, like in, you know, pick-up games, and you can just choose whatever you want and just play with it. But so you have to kind of set your mind to how you build your army more broadly, more generally, kind of targeting what you kind of expect for the scenarios to be at whatever tournament or series of games you're going to play, but also what your army is going to be kind of good at doing. And some of these are definitely better than others. Like, you know, this one says kill all the heroes on the opponent's army. Well, some heroes just stay back and cast spells and hide behind trees. So you're going to spend all that effort to get over there to get to them. So there's going to be some of these that are a little bit better or worse, but I like the option there. And again, kind of tailoring back to what I just said, I like there to be a little bit of tug of war in my decision making of like, okay, well, I'm going to go up and grab that objective, great, But that's not a decision. That's just like, you need to do that. But if I have some other sort of objective or scoring opportunity tugging on that, I was like, okay, which one of these is the better one? Which one do I have a better shot at actually doing? These grand strategies start to sort of overlap the scenario objectives, and it makes for, again, a good, interesting decision point. Even better, I think, is the battle tactics. And so there's a list here of 5, kind of in the core rules, and that would be something you choose at the start of your hero phase. So for example, it says, choose and destroy an enemy unit wholly within your opponent's territory. So you're like, oh, there's a couple of hobgrots over there. I'm going to run over there and smash those and kill those. And that's going to give me 2 victory points if I succeed at that. So you choose that at the start of your turn. And once you choose that one, you can't choose that particular battle tactic again for the rest of the game. So you're going to look through the 5, and I think there's more in the General's Handbook, where it's like, okay, this one's easy now, but it might be hard later, or this one is probably kind of easy, but it's going to be easy for the rest of the game, theoretically. So there's a real kind of, again, another layer of decision making there. Like slay the warlord, slay opponent's general this turn. So if you slay their general, then you can do it, and you get the extra 2 victory points for your end game victory points. So all of the match play scenarios in this book are basically hold objectives, and sometimes you'll burn an objective, and they'll give you a certain amount of points based on how many objectives you control, or maybe where the objective's at. But then you have the battle tactics sort of mixed with that. And so I have seen some real interesting kind of decision points here about what to do on your turn and who to do it with. So you might say, okay, well, I'm going to go push up this group of unit here, and they're going to control that objective, but I need to do a battle tactic because I don't want to just waste those 2 points that are available to me. So I was thinking about putting both of these units here on this objective, but you know what? I'm going to peel this other little paladin unit off over here, shoot them over there. It's going to draw them away from kind of the main theater of battle that's maybe in the center of the table or on some flank, to go and sort of pick out that unit of hobgrots. Okay. So it's like, do I want to do that? Or maybe I forget that this turn. I pick some other battle tactic I know I'm not going to be able to do at all during the game, but I'm really going to double down on this objective or 2 objectives. And then, I'll go over and pick off those hobgrots on the next turn or something. So that can be an interesting kind of thing, and I think it's going to be a tough thing. Like, you always want to score these battle tactics if you can help it, because these are going to be a lot easier to do. There's going to be opportunities where it's like, well, this is obvious, I'm going to go do that. But if it's obvious now, you might want to save that one for later, because you might be something else that might become impossible later. So that, again, that layer of decision making is really cool. And we can see this, even though this is very basic and simple now, you can see them sort of expanding on that system, maybe not in this General's Handbook, but in future General's Handbook, to really kind of add some layers of depth to that kind of decision making, and maybe even make it more thematic and stuff. So I'm super excited about all of those kind of basic changes. There's a lot of other changes, like you can't just stack buffs into infinity, so they're like +6 to hit. You're capping at +1 or -1 after you kind of resolve all the modifiers together. All that stuff kind of marries together very, very, very cool way. So last pillar, third pillar, and I'll just kind of leave with this and talk about it quickly because I talked about it a lot in the walkthrough, is the Path to Glory stuff. Kind of the takeaway for me with this one is it feels a lot like playing a Frostgrave or Necromunda or Stargrave or any of those kind of campaign games. Whereas the old Path to Glory stuff was really just like an excuse to play a slow grow league with some other little rules kind of wrapped around it, which is fine. But this is an actual, honest to God, legitimate sort of campaign system that they've said that they're going to come out with battle packs and storylines and just quest lines and all that kind of stuff, which I think this game really needs that extra sort of effort played into this game, because that's kind of the side of my brain where this game really scratches the itch. I like the battlefield on-board tactics and all that stuff, and the army building and the painting, all that kind of stuff is cool. But having that sort of progression and narrative, like living with your army or your warband over a period of time, so you're kind of invested in each of the different units and they all have like a little story and background. That's really cool, and that's something that a lot of these large scale games have not really done a great job of lately. I mean, 40K has this stuff, but honestly I've I'm not really much of a 40k guy, but this is my jam, and so I'm really interested in this. I don't know how much of this I would get played like at the shop. Whenever I go there, it's usually for a tournament or just a pickup game, which is a match play. But maybe, I mean, it's kind of a big commitment and stuff, you know, to kind of have that like either weekly or monthly game kind of thing. But I'm pretty interested in this anyway. And like I said, I've just been playing these 6 games solo. So regardless, if people want to watch on YouTube, I'll still be playing this. I can't wait for that first battle pack to come out and kind of play through some kind of storyline or something, or even, like I said, go back to some of the old narrative books. So you could go back to some of the Realm Gate Wars books or the Malign Portents books. And I think I did some reading on going back through some of those scenarios and kind of how those narrative campaigns worked. I think you could plug this Path to Glory stuff pretty much right into most of them, and it would work, because it's kind of nice having that sort of territory control sort of thing where you're kind of building your bubble of influence with your army to take over certain things, and then, you know, get special abilities and beef everything up. So I'm really excited for that kind of stuff. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So again, kind of the takeaway for this, I think for new players, this is a great thing. You can jump in, get the 2 armies, play through Path to Glory. I've got 6 games out of it. By the end of the 6th game, I had both of the armies full up with, you know, spending the glory points and stuff. I will say that the Stormcast side is definitely, I would say, noticeably stronger. Now, they did not win every game, but as soon as Andrasta gets into the picture, it's like game over. And all of their units are good. All of the Stormcast units, I think, are great units. Like when we get to match play, I think all of these have a place, except maybe the caster is just kind of a throwaway caster. I would say that's probably the weakest unit. The Lord Arcanum is very powerful, good special abilities. Andrasta is amazing. The Vindictors, which is like your battle line unit, very tough and resilient. The 2 paladin groups, the Praetors and the Annihilators, are ridiculous. They're just super powerful. Those are the big guys with the Hulk looking guys with the shields. Just outrageous. Having the banner in play as well, which is just has a reroll to charge bubble with those paladins kind of dropping in from Azir, where you can kind of do the deployment, so that you don't deployment on the battlefield in the beginning. You kind of had them 9 inches, drop them wherever. Put them somewhere where that banner's in charge, so you can reroll the charge, and then holy cow. Now the Auric units, I think, are also all good, actually. The ones that I don't like are the Hobgrots. Even though I love the models and stuff, they're really kind of weak. They're just kind of an annoyance and a pest to taking up some space on the table for a round or 2. But everybody else is pretty good. The Shaman has a neat kind of ability where he can, instead of casting, he can sort of poison, or I forget what the other word is, like elixir the weapons. So he's a good kind of little buffer guy as well. And so is the banner guy, the Merc Knob, and he's actually pretty decent in combat. The other combat guy, which is the, oh crap, I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, there's the guy on the big giant wolf thing. He's the warlord. There's another guy on foot, which has like a little miniature grot with him. The guy on the mount is good. He's great. If you charge him in, you get the +1 to attack, and he can do some damage. He's very orky, a little bit swingy there, but if he swings good, then he'll obliterate a unit. Definitely. I think one of the games he almost obliterated all of the Vindictors. I mean, there were some dice shenanigans there, but he did do it. But yeah, so I think it's a good solid sort of balance there. Again, eventually, if you do play like kind of the slow grow kind of thing, the Stormcast are going to start winning a lot. But yeah, so there's that. Just keep that in mind. If you take Andrasta out, it's definitely more balanced, and I think that's about the point differential, because they're about 250 or so, 300 points higher than the Oryx. But if you pull Andrasta out, she's 300 points. So it's like there were 2 balanced forces, and then they put Andrasta in there, and then it was like, okay, game over. But that's okay. I mean, you can sort of tailor as you wish there. So anyway, I think it's a good beginner box set, and they're going to have battle tomes coming out. So this is really a good opportunity, I think, to start Age of Sigmar. If you've not played, I probably should have led the video off with that, but you can get in this, have one player take Stormcast, another one take Orcs. The battle tome should be coming out here in a couple of weeks, and you can start to add, more units and stuff like that, and really flesh them out. And I will say the Orcs, the Iron Jaws, are really good. I've got a good selection of those models there. Some of the other bone splitters types are really good to add. I actually picked up a box of 20 of the Arrow Boys to add to my Iron Jaws along with these guys. And then the Stormcast, I mean, they have, take your pick. They have every kind of unit out there that you can get if you want some, you know, ranged guys or some big monsters on dragons and, you know, other knights and, you know, cavalry and all that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff there. So anyway, enough rambling. Definitely recommend it. Obviously, if you watch my videos all, you know this is my favorite game of all time. I don't think that's changed. So hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you.